For those of you who have been using what I'm going to refer to as the legacy net management tool on ERCconnect and also IdahoERC.org, you're going to be, I think, comfortable with moving into this new system. Even though it's going to look very different, it functions the same, and it has a lot of nice features, I think, that will be helpful. This system is not new. It has been around now. I actually was looking the other day. We're now over 22 years, which is still shocking. I keep saying this, but I'm not even old enough for it to be that old, but somehow I am. So we have taken what we've learned over the last a couple of decades, I'll just call it, and we're putting it into these new upgrades and changes. So this system started out as a tool used locally here in Idaho, and it's kind of grown over time to where now it's being used from coast to coast and across the United States as well as Canada. So it's growing still rapidly as we build out these new tools that are being modified and upgraded to support the current needs of the church. This system is not an official church system. It was looked at one point as going to be an official church website and tool, but they decided that it would actually be easier for us and we could be a little bit more agile and move quickly on things if it was not an official church website supported by the church, but not an official church website. So we don't have to go through some of the red tape that is involved with church websites and things. So I think that's a good thing. But just so for clarification, this is not an official church website, but it is supported by the church. So its use is completely optional, and I think you'll find that it's going to be helpful. And those areas that are actually all of the areas in the United States and Canada are currently working to build out the ERC program and to restructure things in many cases and build things. And I think this website and the tools that we have in it, I think, are going to be a key resource in building it and allowing it to grow quickly. So with that, let me share my screen again. And move. So this training this evening is for ERC net control operators. So there's basically two kind of users in the system. There are net control operators and there are net managers. Net managers are net control operators, but they have some additional capabilities and responsibilities. So the net managers, in addition to being a net control operator, net managers manage who the participants of the nets are. They manage the layout of the rosters. They maintain the preamble that can be used by the net control operators, and they managed the net reminders that can go out. So nets can be configured so that they can send out automated email reminders prior to the net, and they can also, with the new feature, we're getting ready to roll out SMS text messaging as well as some other capabilities. So net control operators can do everything, and they can actually even change things and customize things, as you'll see. But the basics of the net are limited to the net managers. So a net manager can actually make any other net control operator a manager. In theory, every net control operator could be a net manager, but it's not recommended because with net managers come responsibilities, and you can actually kind of make a mess of things a little bit. So that's why we've divided this training into the two separate training sessions, one for the net control operators and the other one for the net managers, which we're going to hold on Thursday. Everybody on this call is welcome to join that as well if you want to dig in to see what it requires to be a net manager. Right now, most of our nets do not have what we would call a net manager, at least officially. But we're going to change that because we need all nets to have at least one net control op or one net manager. And we recommend having a couple of net managers so that you've got a backup that can get into the management of things. So all radio nets are different. Everybody runs their nets differently. They operate differently in different locations, and they just have a way of being very different. They consist of different participants. The way that we put people on a net is different. For instance, a ward net is going to have ward operators on it. A stake net will have stake operators. Coordinating council operators. But we also have the ability to combine all of the above. So for instance, if there's a need to combine multiple wards together, not part of a stake, but maybe a couple of wards for a one radio net, for example, we can do that in this system. If we want to combine multiple stakes together, not necessarily a full coordinating council, but maybe 2 or 3 stakes that are in close geographic location, for example, we can combine those in this system. So not to change the hierarchy of the church, that doesn't change, but for communications, we can combine all of those, and we'll explain those here a little bit more. But the bottom line is all nets are different. Different participants, different information may be collected on a net, and the net control operators are different, and the way that we manage the net control operators are different. So in order to make this be a tool that everyone can use, we've made it extremely flexible. With the flexibility can come complexity, but we've tried to make things as simple as we can while making it as flexible as we can. The ERCconnect Net Manager is the system we're going to be talking about. It's customizable on a per net basis. In other words, every net is set up can be set up however that net wants to operate. But beyond that, each net control operator tends to have a way that they like to operate. So even though the net might be set up in a certain way, each net control operator can adjust things to how they like it. And it only affects what they see. And so we'll kind of explain what that means, but I just want to start off by helping you understand that every net is customized and every operator can further customize it to the way that they function. So at the basic component of this are our roles. So a role is like a Sunday school role. Instead of passing the role around, we have a net control operator who records the check-ins into a net and what information is reported. So different nets ask operators to check in with different items of information. Some are very simple and they just ask you to check in and let us know who you are. Other nets want you to check in and let you know that they're on emergency power, or that they are using a certain type of software, or that they are hearing you with a certain report of how you're being received. The list is actually long. We actually interviewed a lot of people across the country and in Canada, finding out how people called their nets, and we learned a lot. And so we kind of took all that into consideration and tried to make this work how everybody else works. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to start kind of jumping into this and what it looks like. Except for I didn't mean to stop sharing. I want to just share a different function. There we go. Can everybody see my screen?
We see you.
If I click this button, it'll probably start coming.
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay, very good. So this is what it looks like if you're in the central area. If you're in a different area, such as Utah, you're going to see different information displayed, or in the Southwest, it's whatever the area puts out there for the news. But what's very different for those of you who've been using the legacy system, there's a website administration that those who are net control operators could get to. And I'm just going to give you kind of a glimpse. Some people have never seen this, but This is the legacy system where you would go in there and you would pick your net. I'm just going to randomly pick one. I'm going to select a role here from April 29th. And this is what the old system kind of looked like, where when you wanted to check somebody in, you would check him in and they would show up here. And it required a little bit of extra work in getting people set up with administrative privileges and access to the roles. And it was kind of a hassle whenever we wanted to add a new net control operator or make a change. We had to go through a system administrator to make those changes. That's all in the past. From this point forward, the net controls will be handled. So a net control manager can add operators with a couple of mouse clicks, and then people can have access. When you have access, and everybody that is currently been set up as a net control operator for any of the nets will have access as soon as we enable this after Thursday. And there'll be, for the time being, there'll be this new link up here that says Net Management.
You muted.
This whole page that you're seeing here is what I'm going to call our legacy system. It's all going to change in the coming months, and it's going to have a completely new and different look. The net manager that you're going to see tonight is similar to what some of the new look and feel will be. And the way that you'll get to it will change. But for right now, with the older looking system, you'll get to it with this new net management. You're not going to see a link yet until after Thursday when we turn things on. But those who are already set up as a net control operator for any of the nets, as soon as we enable it, you'll see this new net management link show up here. So that's how you'll get to it. And if you don't see a net manager link show up here, it means that you're not currently set up as a net control operator on a net. If you're here hoping to use the system to start managing nets in your area, good news is it's a very easy thing for the areas to be able to set up the nets. And we are also have a new help desk team, ERCconnect help desk team that we are building and training. And so the help desk team will also be available to help people set up new radio nets. So it's easy to set up a new net. And once it's set up, it's very easy to use. We're going to go over how to set that up on the net manager training on Thursday. But for tonight, we're going to assume that we have a net that's already set up. So if I click on net management, the next screen that you'll see is a list of the nets that you have privileges to operate on. If you are a net control operator for one net, you actually won't see this screen. You'll just see the next one. So we have some net control operators that manage more than one radio net. Here I'm actually looking at all the radio nets that we currently have, like in the central area. If you are a central area administrator, you'll be able to see all the nets in your area, and you may be able to look at some of the nets in the other areas. So what you see here on this screen is going to depend again on what nets you have privilege to see. So if you are a net control operator for two nets, you only see like two nets here. If you're a net control operator for one, you'll jump right into the next screen, which I'll do now. So I have a net that I called Kevin Test. So we're going to delete it when we're done here, but I've already set this up. But if I click on this, the next screen you see is kind of a calendar of the past nets that you've called. In this particular case, I've only created 2 roles. So there's only 2, but let me show you what it looks like for a net that's being called on a regular basis. Click this one, and we can see if I go back and we look at like April, this is a net that's called every Wednesday. Let me make this a little bit larger so it's easier to see here. You'll see that there is a kind of a blue square around those days when a net has been called. And this dark number 1 below these, that means that there has been 1 role created on that date. We have some nets where they actually have multiple roles in one day. For instance, they have a net at 7 o'clock and a net at at 9 o'clock. And so they actually will create 2 roles. And so in that case, if they created 2 roles on this date, you would see this where it says a number 1, you would see a 2 there. Sometimes it's done by accident. And so you'll see multiple roles. And if there is more than one, it'll give you another drop-down list where you can select which one. So the main takeaway here is that when you come into this screen where it lists your roles, you see a calendar, and you can actually go back in time and you can look at the things in the past and go look at a specific role in whatever month you want. And if we come to the current month, a particular one, the last net was on the 6th of May, and they haven't created a new role yet for the 13th. There's also kind of a second list if you'd like to see. It's just a list showing the most recent roles that you can look at. As a net control operator, you have the ability to create a new role. A role is basically, think of it as a sheet of paper for use on one net on one day, or one time. And so as you come in, and I'm not going to create one on these guys' net, but I'll show you in a minute. We create a new role, and as soon as we create it, we can start filling it in. Sometimes you might create one. In fact, after this training, I'm going to encourage you to go out and create an extra role, maybe on a day other than when you normally hold that net, and play around with this and kind of get familiar with it, because you also have the ability to delete. So all net control operators have the ability to delete the roles. Okay, you can delete something that you may not have wanted to. It is a true delete. So make sure that you delete what you want to delete. But we've given you the privilege, the ability to create it, because you can add them. And sometimes you want to create one and play or test something, and then you want to delete it when you're done. This is how you do that. So you can add them and you can delete them. Everybody that's a net control operator can do that.
And I assume there's a confirmation when you click delete. So if you
There
accidentally,
is.
you
There
can,
is.
okay.
So if I click here, it comes up and it says, "Are you sure you want to delete it?" And it in addition to deleting the role, there's actually a separate record for every check-in, and so it will delete all of those. And so it's warning you when you delete this, it's deleting the role and all of those individual check-ins. And if I click delete, they're gone. If I click cancel, whew, I didn't accidentally delete it. So you can't accidentally delete it. It makes it pretty clear you're about to do a bad thing if you don't mean to. Let me go back, and I'm going to show you, before I show you what the actual roles look like, I'm going to show you what a net manager sees. And I'm not showing you this to teach you how to use it. I'm showing you this so you can understand the flexibility in setting up a net. So the configuration, I've got it kind of blown up. Let me shrink it just a little bit. Has these tabs across the top. The first tab is just the basic setup where we give the net a name. This is where I named it Kevin Test. And this net is within the United States Central area. I can make it an amateur radio net, a GMRS net. We support shares, including all the shares official reporting, which we won't go into much tonight, but we can do that. If you use MERS, we support MERS, or if you use business radios or citizens band. If you have a Starlink satellite net you want to set up, you can make a Starlink net. If you have a MeshCore net or a Meshtastic net, you can have a mesh net, or it can be other. The only thing that does anything special is if this is an amateur net, it won't put anybody on the roll that doesn't have an amateur radio call sign. If it's a GMRS net, you don't have to have, it can be, it's a GMRS/FRS, so we don't require anything. The only 2 things that actually it matters on is the amateur net and a shares net, because you have to have a shares call sign to participate in the shares net on the shares frequencies. You need an amateur radio license and have a call sign. And so that's the only thing it enforces. The rest of the things you can kind of set it up however you want, but it also allows us to categorize these nets on the type. I'll show you why we have distance, but we support the metric system for our brethren in Canada. So we support kilometers as well as miles. Here's where you can put frequency. You have a primary frequency, a backup frequency, and you can have a tertiary or another frequency that you might use. You can control, people may be on a roll that they don't show up or they stop showing up. And after a while, you have a lot of people on the roll that don't participate very often. And so we provide the ability to make them disappear. They're still on the roll, but you can make them disappear, and you can set as each net can say, oh, 30 days is when we want to make them disappear, or you can make it 60 or 90, however you want to do it as a net. The next thing that's very customizable is the schedule. Around here, we used to do our nets like every week on a certain day, but not everybody does that. Some people might hold a net on the first and third Wednesdays, or the first Wednesday and the last Wednesday, or the first Wednesday and the last Saturday. However you want to set it up, you can set things up and you can schedule it how you want. Set the time that you want to schedule it and the time zone that it's in. And so anywhere from the same day every week to a different day on different weeks of the month. So it's fairly flexible on how you can schedule it. The net participants, this is very complex on the back end, but very easy on the front end. So we can set things up to where we can make an area net for the United States Central area. Don't know why you'd want to have an entire area, but you can. Or you can have a coordinating council net. You just click here and you can search for any coordinating council in North America. Or you might make it a stake net. And again, you can click here and search and put in any stake in North America. Or you can make it a ward net, and you can create it for any ward in North America. Or I mentioned before, we have the ability to group things, not to change the church hierarchy, but if we wanted to create a group of areas, well, there's not much to choose from. So we have a United States area group. So it's all the areas in the United States. And we have the Canada area, which is all by themselves because there's only one area in Canada. And for fun, we created a Zion group for testing here. And just a second here. We don't have anything in Zion at the moment. The same concept applies to like coordinating councils. I know we have some in Texas, for example, where you have multiple coordinating councils that work together for hurricane response, for example. You can create a group of coordinating councils, and then you select that coordinating council for this net. Same thing with stake. You can have a stake group, you can have a ward group outside of the normal like coordinating council, for example. And then we can have other special ones where we can have a group that's not based on automatically selected. And I should have mentioned, these are all automatically put on the net. So if you have a stake net, for example, it automatically puts all the operators in the stake on that net roster. Okay. In addition to the operators are put in there automatically, you can also come down here and you can add somebody. I'm on my test. That is not in that stake, but you want to put them on the roll anyway. So you can come down here and you can put people on here that are in addition to those that get put on automatically. Again, this is what we're going to cover on the net to manager training. But the key takeaway here is we can make this automatically put operators on the roll automatically, and we can put them in manually. We can even make it so that it's completely manual, and the only people on there are the ones we put on. And this is often used on some of the HF nets, where it just makes sense to put things in manually. But then you have to manage the operators, which can be a little. And there's also another special one that's basically all visitors. In other words, there's nobody already on the roster, and this can be set up in advance for a certain area where you could have one of these special nets already defined and set up. And then if you have like let's say you have wildfires, you could actually use the system and ask who's on frequency and just start logging call signs, and it'll create the roster as you go. We'll show you that here in just a minute, but the main takeaway here is that this is just flexible on who can be in. Let me go back and let me just make this a coordinating council net for fun. And the roster layout, this is where it starts getting very customizable on a per net basis. You have a bunch of columns in a role. Think of it as a spreadsheet. You have columns that have information that we already have in the ERC system. So let me blow this up a little bit so you can read it. The one that's there automatically is the check-in, because it's not a role if you can't check somebody in, so everybody gets that one automatically. If you want to add an emergency power column, so you can record if they're checking on an emergency power, you just put a check-in and emergency power shows up. If it's an amateur net, you want to have an amateur call sign, and I encourage you to use an amateur suffix. It makes it easy to find things, find call signs, if all you have to listen for is the suffix after the number on an amateur call sign. If this is GMRS, you can add a GMRS. You can switch off the amateur and you can put on a GMRS call sign. You can even add a GMRS suffix. If it's shares, you can do the same thing with the shares call sign. I'm going to leave this as an amateur net. You can put a first name and a last name, or you can just have the full name as one column. Some people want to be able to sort those columns by first name or by last name. If you want that, those are options that the net manager can make. I'm just going to make this the full name. If you want, you can have a beam heading and a distance in miles or kilometers from the net control operator. So when you're looking at the role, it's going to show you the beam heading in degrees and the distance in miles or kilometers from your home as recorded in the ERCconnect website. So again, every net control operator that goes in here is going to see different information on the role because it's a different beam heading and a different distance from them. I'll leave those on there just for fun. If this is a stake net, you probably want to have wards listed. If it's a stake net, you probably don't need to have the stake name listed because everybody's in the same stake. However, if it's a coordinating council net, you probably want to have stakes listed. You might not want to have coordinating council. If it's going to be something that's going to have all of those, and I'm just going to check all of these just so you can see what that looks like. Storehouse is there kind of for a legacy purposes. Don't expect it will be used much. And then we have 6 fields here that you can make them anything you want. You can make them a check-in net, and you can make it a check-in where you want to record the time. Some nets, such as shares nets, have a check-in and a check-out. And so you can have a time, you have different types here of check-in and check-out. So you can basically customize every row that you see, every column, to be anything you want. So any information that you want to record, every net can customize this however you want. Net control operators, the same thing. This is where the net managers come in and they just add somebody as a net control operator. If they want to make them a manager, they click there and they're now a manager. So it's really easy. So all it takes to add somebody as a net control operator, I just click on here and they just show up. And they're now a net control operator and they now have access to get into the system. There's net reminders. I'm not going to go into this here. This is all going to change here in a minute anyway. And you can all guess I better. This is a preamble. I'll just type this so we have something in there. And I suppose if you want to, you could go in and add a picture for fun. But you basically can record the preamble that the net control operators read at the beginning of a net and during a net. That's what the preamble is. So that's the configuration. I'll go ahead and save this in our test net here. Maybe. There we go. I don't know what's going on with my internet here. And let's go down now and let's take a look at what this roster looks like. So again, the first screen you're going to see is which net do you want to look at? Do you want to create a new role, or do you want to look one that's already been worked on? Let's create a new role. It creates it and it drops you into the role. I'm just going to kind of show you the top part of this, and then we'll go down and we'll show you the actual roster down below. So you got some basic information up here that just displays what's there.
What's up?
Was there a question?
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'll get out here.
Okay. The date This is the date you're calling the net. It's going to automatically put in the date when you create it. If you create it and you need to change it, you just click on the little calendar and you can pick another date if you want. We'll just leave it at today's date on May 12th. The start time, again, it's going to put in the current time, and you can click on the time, and you can the way that all the time fields in here. When you click on the time, you can edit it. You can either just type something in, or you can just use these up and down things to change the hours and the minutes, and the AM and the PM. Or if you just click on the clock, it just sets it to the current time. It is right this very minute. So you can set the time when the net starts. And when you conclude a net, same thing. All you'll have to do is click, and it'll put in the current time of when the net's ended. There's your time zone for the net. You can have the net control operators be scheduled, and you can select how the net, what control, who ends up in this net control list. The net control manager can make it so just the net control operators show up here, or you can make it so everybody on the net shows up if they so desire. But there's your net control operator. And then there's some buttons here. There's a preamble script. That's the one that I just typed in just a minute ago. Not much of a preamble, but the idea is that this is, this is your welcome to the net preamble that's there. If you forget the net phonetic alphabet, there's a little phonetic alphabet that you can launch there. I'm going to come back to this ICS 213 here in a minute. There is no net control schedule on this one, but if it was, the net control operator for the date of this net would show up here highlighted in this gold color. So you can also, in a coming feature, print out a schedule like a year in advance of the net control schedule. One of the features that we have it's not quite finished yet, but it's the ability for net managers to go in and schedule holidays that that you're not going to manage a net on. For example, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Mother's Day, for example, Father's Day. So we actually have a standard set of holidays that you can go in, and if your net happens to fall on one of those holidays, it will set up what's called a skip. And so you have a skip schedule that will be one of the tabs for the net managers. So if you want to skip a net, you can actually lay that all in advance. And you can have the net control operators all laid out in advance, however you want to lay them out. And you can actually print out a list to show what the net control schedule is going to be a year in advance if you so desire. This notes field is just, you can take notes on whatever happens in this net. You can drag the corner here whenever you see a corner with those little lines on it. That means you can put your cursor on it and you can drag it and you can resize it. But if you want to take notes of what's happened on the net, you can put that there. There's also a place where you can put here. Let me, as I zoom out, this kind of changes, and I want to kind of point that out, because if you look at this on a tablet, it's going to rearrange itself to look as good as it can on a tablet. If you try and look at it on a phone, it's going to try and make itself look as good as it can on a phone. There's a lot of information here on a phone. So we're actually working on a simplified version that you could maybe call a basic net from on a phone if you need to. But as I zoom in, you notice that this is changing up here based on the amount of space that I have. There's a space over here that says message for next net. If you enable the net reminders, you can type a message that says, if there's a special message, like whatever you'd want to say, it'll put that in the net reminders for next week. And so it just allows you to record that here. Okay, let's skip down and start getting into the role. By default, it will limit the operators that you see on the list here to those operators who are active. In other words, active within whatever time frame the net's been configured to be called active. This we've configured, if they've checked in within 60 days, we're calling them active. You could configure it as a net manager, and it could configure it to say 30 days. If I click show all operators, it's now expanded. I got a whole bunch of operators here that haven't checked in a very long time. Because this is a net that's actually only been called twice because it's a sample, basically everybody on here, which is, I don't know, a couple hundred people probably. They're all showing up until I limit it to just the active ones. And now we got a much smaller list. So this is an important button. There are times when you want to see all the operators because you have somebody that's checked in and you maybe want to find them in here. You don't have to actually do that. You can actually do a search. The search is kind of more of a filter. If I search for HLM, it's showing me that here's a call sign that has HLM in it. Only one call sign, one operator. I can search besides call signs. I could search for a name. I don't know how to spell my own name. Because this is the test, I have some family members that are on this net. And so it brings up all the operators with the name Hemsley. If I wanted to search for Bob, turns out we've got several operators named Bob. So this just searches your role here, of whoever's on the roll. So if you can't find them, depending on how you call your role, you might need to search. And so you can search with that search operator. That's what it's for. What you see here is columns, and columns, which columns are shown, the net managers decide based on what I was just showing you how they can configure it. So this, we have it set up, we've got a check-in column. So if we check in, all we have to do is check there. We have, let me scroll up. We have a bunch of stuff here, so I have to scroll. There's an emergency power column. I kind of like that next to my check-in. So I'm just going to drag it over here and put it right next to the check-in. So just for information, in this area, we typically ask if you're on emergency power with all nets. The reason is we had church headquarters recommend a long time ago, you should ask people if they're on emergency power or not. So we did. The first time we asked that, about 98% of all the operators checking in were on commercial power. There was only a few people that were actually checking in on battery or their emergency power. The second week was about 50%. People, oh, we got to check in on emergency power. By the time we hit the third week, it went to like 90% people checking in on emergency power. It turns out the peer pressure works, even on radio nets, because you don't want to be that operator that's not checking in on emergency power, which is actually a good thing. And so that's what this emergency power is. So it's one of the standard columns that you can have. This shows you the amateur call sign and the suffix. So right now, we have this net sorted by stake and then by suffix. And so that's what the net manager has done. He said stake. And so if we sort it by, let me point out, the net control operators have been configured to show up at the top of the roll on this particular net. If you don't do that, the net managers don't just turn that off and they don't show up. They just show up as a regular operator here. I'm going to go ahead and show all operators so we can get some more people to show up here. If you look at the bottom and if you see, we can actually scroll within here and we can leave all this the same and it just locks in so you can always see those column headings. I'm just using my mouse scroll bar to kind of scroll up and down. I don't have much of a window. If you want to make that window bigger, this is called a handle and you can just put your mouse there, click on it and drag it and you can make that as big as you want. And now you got a bigger space to be able to scroll in. If I move my mouse outside of this grid, then it actually scrolls the whole page, okay? So be aware of that because this is a new feat. This net control system is new and has a new look and feel, but it's running inside of our legacy system that's got these other scroll bars. So right now we have what's called these double scrolls. And so that's something that you typically don't want to have in a website design, but we have it here because we kind of have to with running on our legacy system and putting this new one. just know that you can use your mouse, the wheel on your mouse to scroll within the roster. If your roster's long, you can, make that larger or smaller as you scroll. So what if I wanted to sort this by name? All I have to do is click on here and it's sorted by name. The problem is, do you see there's now this stake indicator? The reason is there's currently a setting in here that says we want to separate a row every time the stake changes. Well, if we sort by name, the stake is changing pretty much every operator. Here we got 2 people in the same stake, but that's kind of annoying with having that blue separator bar. So I'm just going to turn that off for right now and say none. And then save it. Forgot to save it. And now there's no more separator bars, and I've sorted it by name. And you can see there's a little arrow up going. That means it's sorted ascending from A to Z basically, and it's going by first name because we're using the name column. We haven't separated the first and last name, but if we had columns configured for first and last name, we could sort it by last name and whatever. Right now, name, it's just going by Aaron, and then Brandon is next, and Cliff. And now you can see that's how it goes. If we sort by ward, you can see there, and you can see we have a bunch of people here that don't have their ward set up. We're working on fixing that so we have everybody's ward in place. If we click on stake again, okay, now that's nice. We have them by stake, and now it makes it easier to see. So this net, if I wanted to say, okay, we're going to call our net and we're going to ask for people to check in by stake. If I go back in here and I say, let's put in a group separator row every time the stake changes, save it. Now it starts, so we can see it starts off with, after we get, net control operators are special, so they don't count. But if we go in here, the Ashton stake is first. So now we see all the Ashton operators. We say, okay, if we say, okay, all operators in the Ashton stake, please come with your call sign now. And they start calling and you're trying to find them. If you click on, if I hold my shift key down and I click on amateur suffix, it's sorting first by stake, and that's what the little number 1 is, and then second by suffix. Okay, so these operators shouldn't be here because they don't have an amateur call sign. So I've got something set up strange on the setup. So, but normally you're going to see all the net control operator. Actually, the net control operators, it's letting on there. But here's all the call sign suffix. So first we're sorting this by stake, and then by suffix. So if you say all operators in the Ashton stake, all you have to listen for is DJJ. There he is, and you check him in. If he's on emergency power, you check that. Okay. I haven't got another feature turned on. I'm going to turn off for a minute till I explain what it is. This has a tactical identifier. This is more for like an exercise and for another net, but that's what this column was. We're just going to skip that. I'm going to hit the tab key. Here's a check-in date and time. So this shows you what, if we make this is a custom field that we named ourselves check-in and check out, and we made it a time field. If I just click on it, it just puts in the current time. So here in the Mountain Time Zone, it's 7:46 p.m. And if I click here again, there's the checkout. If I click it again, it'll give me the ability to change the time. And the next is, whoops. The next field here is status. This is another custom field. We created a status of in and out. This is a drop-down list that the net manager made. Okay, so if you've got something that you want to ask operators to check in with a certain piece of information, such as, I'm just going to say like red or blue. whatever you're asking them to check in for, if it's only two options of red or blue, you can make a drop down that says red or blue and you just select it. Okay. So in other words, these columns are just information that you want to record. If you don't want any of this but a check-in, you just make that roster, or the net manager makes it. That's all they see. This has a bunch of stuff just so you can see what it looks like and what it does. So these are kind of notes fields. Let me go and show you a real net that doesn't have quite as much stuff. So this is actually a net, and I'm just going to go into a real roster from last week. Okay. So this, you see, they've got a check-in column, they've got an emergency power column, and they ask people to check in and tell them how many watts of power they're transmitting on. Okay. So they have this this field, and they call it power, and they just can enter a number of whatever they want. So that's an example of a custom field that the net manager set up called power, and they can put that in. We also have a training net that's after this kind of a regional net, and they ask people to let us know if you want to be excused from that net, because most people listen to this net at 8:30, and at 9 o'clock they listen to an on-air training net at 9 o'clock. And if they want to be excused, they've got a checkbox where they can say you're excused. So in other words, these are the pieces, the four pieces of information they're asking the operator to check in with. And they're all right here when they check in. And the rest of these are kind of a display only. So here's the amateur suffix and their call sign. Here's their name. Here's their stake. And they've also got their coordinating council here, because they've got multiple coordinating councils on this net. There's a field here for notes. If I click on it, it gives me a little pop-up and a little bit more room to type notes. And when I save it, that goes away, and then you just kind of see a portion of this here. If you don't want it, you can delete it and save it, and it's gone. And then the other thing that you'll see here is these guys have enabled, and I encourage all nets to have this column enabled as well, is a flags column. The flags kind of give you a quick way to see certain information. So let's look at this first operator here, KJ7BUH. Actually, if I click on this operator's name, I picked it bad. Let me click on her husband, Alan. Okay, so Alan, this is his basic operator information, which you can click on anybody's. Tara doesn't have a picture uploaded, so she gets the generic picture. Alan does, and so there's Alan's. And you know that Alan has it because this little icon right here, that little looks like a photograph. If I click on anybody that has a photograph on it, they've got a picture. If I click on somebody that doesn't have that little flag, they have the generic one. So how do you know what all these flags are? Well, if I scroll down here to the bottom, there's a legend down here. And once you get used to these flags and you show certain ones show up, you can see they're very helpful. For instance, this operator right here, Tara, this green envelope, if I just hold my mouse over it, it says there's no email address on file. That's not good, because now we don't have a way to email them for announcements or emergency notifications or whatever. We want them to have an email. So that control operator can say, hey, you should go into your profile on ERCconnect and put your email in there. We're also going to add a way to be able to click on it, and the net control operator can just add their email address if the person wants to give it over the air. There's also a clock on this one. If I hold my mouse over it, it says whoops, if I don't move it, the last check-in was 35 days ago. So it turned yellow because it's been, 30 to 60 days that they haven't checked in. You remember on this net, after 60 days, if we've got it filtered, they're going to disappear off the roster. So that's just informational, just so you know this person hasn't checked in for a bit. This it says NC. If I'll blow it up a little bit, it might be too little to. Scroll over. So that's an NC. That's for, if I hold my mouse over, that's net control operator. That means this person, Tammy, is one of the net control operators for this net. Okay. And she's got she's got her photo on file. There's Tammy. I think she's probably on with us tonight. So there you go. There's Tammy. She's actually a church service missionary, and she's leading the ERCconnect help desk team and trying to get everybody updated. So that's if you want to know, there's Tammy, Sister Grimmett. So there's multiple icons that can be over here. This red one shows there's no check-in on record, which means this person's on the roll, but they've never checked in. Okay, so that's what the red icon is. So here's some things that can be very helpful. If you see a colored box with an A in it, that means this is a message about an amateur radio license. If it's this gold A, it means that their license is expiring within the next 60 days. So 60 days or less, it's going to expire. If their license is expired, that A turns to a red. And if somebody's checking into your net and you see that red A flag, it means their license is expired and they shouldn't be transmitting because they don't have a valid license. And you might want to let them know that they need to go out and renew their license at fcc.gov and get their license back. If you see a black A, means their license is expired. It's been expired for more than 2 years, which means they've got to retest. And so that's what the black A is. If you see the same colors but a G, that applies to a GMRS license. So we have the GMRS license data in here as well. But if their license is expired in 60, it's yellow. If it's expired, it goes to red. So again, you've got these icons at the bottom. Most of the people, depending on how the net is created, are probably going to be put on this roll automatically. And so that the benefit in that is you don't have to keep adding people to the roll. Somebody moves into a ward or a stake, they would be put on the roster automatically. But there's some people that you want to put on a roll manually, and it's just an additional operator. So if it's an additional operator that's not automatic, you'll see that plus sign. Okay, that just means additional radio operator. It means they've been added separately. The photograph on file, if they're an ERC operator, and I'll show you what this is for. And this is for the visitors. It'll show up ERC. So that's the regular operators that are on the roll. What if you have visitors that show up? If you have a visitor that shows up, you can just put in their call sign. I'm going to put in, let's see, what's a call sign? KC7IHV. As soon as I hit tab, it's going to look them up and it's going to fill in what it knows about them. It knows that this is Steve Taylor. He's in the Ammon Stake, Ammon Idaho Coordinating Council, and it knows this because you see this little ERC icon. It means they're an ERC operator. They're already in the ERCconnect database. But what happens if they're not in the ERC database? So I'm going to make up a call sign. I'm going to type in K6ABC. Hit tab. And this is somebody, the ERC icon didn't show up over here, which means they're not an ERC operator. There's somebody out on the air that wants to check into your net, and there's his name, and it knows this because it's doing a real-time check against the FCC database. And so it's pulling his name, and he's not really in the Jenner stake. That's his city. Actually, we're going to add a state as well. And that's just for your information. So all the information down here for a visitor, you can fill in whatever you want. And some of the stuff's not really going to matter. In fact, maybe we should have that showing as the notes. But the notes field's got to be set up. But that's what's kind of cool is the visitors just type in a call sign. If this is a GMRS net, you can type in a GMRS call sign, and it'll do the same thing. If they're an ERC operator with a GMRS license, it'll pull in their information from ERCconnect. If they're a GMRS operator, it'll actually look them up in the FCC database, their GMRS data, and bring that in. If they're not an amateur radio operator, I'm just going to an invalid license here, and I hit tab, it's going to tell you that's not a valid amateur radio license. So if somebody checks in, either you copied their call sign wrong or they're giving you an invalid license. That means they're not in the database. Okay, the FCC database. So that's a good sanity check for call signs. If you want to uncheck it, and it just deletes the record and they're no longer a visitor. So I kind of went over a bunch of stuff real fast, but I'm gonna kind of pause here for questions. But what questions do you have on, again, once this is all set up, all you're really doing is checking people in or filling in the data that's already been set up. Once it's set up, all you have to do is check those and you're good to go. I'm going to pause. If you have a question, just unmute your mic and go ahead and ask.
Question.
Go ahead.
How do we get our logins?
That's going to come through. First off, are you currently a net control operator on an ERCconnect net?
Yes, but not in the, I might be in the system, but I don't know. It's AA7I, Dan Starr.
Okay, Dan, do you know if are you already a net control operator for a net that's managed by ERCconnect?
Yes.
Okay, then you're already there. You won't see the net management until after we enable it, which is going to be after we go through the net manager training on Thursday. So probably closer to Saturday, actually Friday, I guess. On Friday, we'll enable this, and then they'll start showing up. So we wanted to get everybody trained first, so everybody knew what they were doing, and then if you're a net manager, you'll have net manager privileges. If you have a net that doesn't have a net manager, then we're going to want to add a net manager for you, and you can do that by reaching out to the help desk. And you can email them at helpdesk@ercconnect.org. And you can also reach out to your area specialist. So, and we're getting the area specialists, and some of the areas already have kind of technology specialists that are also helping out with doing this. So if you're not a net control operator now, but you have a net that or you are a net control operator, but it's not being managed, then reach out to us and let us know, and we'll help you get set up. So again, the easiest way is sending an email to helpdesk@ercconnect.org, and just let us know that you want to get set up to get a new net set up on ERCconnect. One of the things you may have noticed on this net that we're looking at, this real net, they have the clock enabled. So there's your clocks. The clocks are customizable. The net manager can lay out the clocks, and it's going to show up with your time zone. You can select which time zones you want to show up. You can actually change the colors and everything. So I've told you what the net managers can do. Oh, let me show you this first. Here's a compass that you can set up. You can move it around. You can place it wherever you want. You can make it big. You can make it little. And all you have to do is click on an operator, and it'll show you that this person is, you can see that, 10.8 miles from me, south by southwest. They're 193 degrees south of me. If I click on somebody else, whether I'm checking him in, all I have to do is click on any of the fields. Find somebody that's a different direction here.
Elder Hemsley, can you give us that help desk address again, please?
Yeah. Help desk and it's the website address, ERCconnect.org.
How can I just got on here. I just noticed 7 o'clock in the email, so I'm an hour late. How can I watch?
We're recording this, and we're going to make it available on the website. We're going to set up kind of a new training area, and so we'll let everybody know through the website and things. So when we put it up there, so the intent is to make this all available so people can go back and rewatch it.
Thank you.
You bet. So here's something new. So we explained that the net managers can lay all this out and set all this up, including how things are sorted and organized. They can actually move where the columns go and all that, and they can even change the width of the column. So if the heading is getting cut off, then you might want to stretch it out so it goes the right side. So once the net manager has done that, they can make what's called a default for all the net control operators on this net. What happens if you don't like how they have that set up? Well, some things you can change and some things you can't. You can't change who gets pulled in. That's set, so everybody's working off the same set of operators. You can check, who shows up through this filter of show active or show all operators. Okay. And which columns show up is controlled by the net managers, but the order that these columns are can be changed by each individual net control operator. So as a net control operator, if you want the name right here next to the call sign or whatever, you can move it however you want. And so as soon as you change something, this is now yours. And every time you come back to this net on any roll, it'll be left however you left it. In addition to just moving things around, and if you resort this by name and mess all this up, I made a mess of things. No, don't worry. Just click on this little cog, which is the settings, and say restore to default configuration. Say yes, and now you're back to how the net control operator had it set up, but it wasn't set up good. Let me fix this. Stake, and then suffix, and I'm just doing something here for a minute. So okay, what I meant to show you is if I resort things and it makes a mess of things, you as an operator can come in here and click on restore, and it will go back to the default. Except something's not working quite right. I'll come back to how I've set this up. Let me undo this actually. Oh, that's good. Should be stake, the amateur suffix. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me save this, and then let me go in here and save. Okay, now that's working. So if you mess things up, just click in here and restore to default. But there's some other things that you're going to see in here. If you're a net manager, you're going to see this tab over here called default settings. If you're not a net manager, you won't see that, but you'll see everything else. So in other words, if you don't want to have this separator role by stake because you want to sort it a different way, you can change that and you can save your options. If you want to change the clocks and you don't want Alaska and Hawaii showing up for whatever, you can change that. You can change the colors of the clocks. You can change the background to be black instead of white, for example, and it changes it black. If you really want that, you can change some of those things and it only changes it for you. Okay. So once you're in here as an operator, any changes you make here on the roll are just for you. So you don't have to worry about messing anybody else up. It's just for you, and you can make it however you want. If you don't want the clocks, it's going to leave those clocks off. The next time you come, they won't be there. Why would you want them off? Screen space, depending on how big a monitors you have, and screen resolution. If you have plenty of resolution and screen space, it's nice to maybe have those on there. And this is tied to the system clock of your computer, and it's going to default to your time zone. If you want to see it in a different time zone, you just come in and change it to a different time zone. If I want to be in Hawaii, there I go. And now it's displaying Hawaii time zone, and the rest of the time zones are here. So play with it. We've tried to make it as intuitive as we can. Again, with still providing with all these features. Let me show you a couple other features. I haven't shown you the PDF options, but you can generate a PDF of this role, but you only have so much space on a piece of paper that you print it out on, which is much less than you may have on a monitor. So this allows you to come in on a per operator basis. Again, the net manager can set the default, but you can come and say, yeah, I want these columns to show up, but not these, because I'm running out of room on my thing. And however you save that, that's going to be the PDF that you do. So the way you get a PDF is if I want to generate a PDF filled out, there's this role filled out. Okay, showing who's checked in emergency power and all the stuff that's been filled in. If I want to export a blank roster, so I can print it out and have available for offline use when there is no internet, I can do that. And it's gonna display it and print it however you have this set up. So that allows you as an individual operator to basically design that, save it, and then and that's how it's going to export. If you're an Excel aficionado and you want to export a CSV for import into Excel, it'll do that, and then you can go in here and it's coming in filled out, but you can just delete all those. You're in Excel, and you can make this and format it fancy however you want. And then you can play with it in Excel. Okay. You can also, okay, now I'll show you one more thing. If you pass message traffic on a net, you can record ICS 213 message traffic. Just click on ICS 213 and you fill this in. I'm going to do this on another one so I don't fill things out here, but you can record as many ICS 213 messages. And this is just the standard ICS 213. You can, it'll put in today's date. You can click there with the current time and save that. And you've got an ICS 213 message recorded. You can record 5 or 10 or 15. If you want to have a net where you're practicing setting ICS 213s, you can record those and you can go back and see those. And once they're recorded, let me go and show you another net. Let's go back to this one. And you'll see there's a 3 here. That means that there's been 3 ICS 213s recorded. Before we didn't see the 3 because we hadn't recorded one yet for that roster, for that role, I mean. So here's 3, and these are just 3. If I click on one of these, there's an ICS 213 that I created. I can look at this one. And those are the ones that were recorded. If I go in here to export and I want to see all of those, I can create a PDF for each of those ICS 213s. Okay, so now you can print out the filled out ICS 213. These can be used for exercises, or you could actually use these in a real event if you wanted to. You can also print it. Yes.
Oh, I was just going to say, Kevin, this is Steve. How long does the information stay? Like your nets and all that, are they forever kept, or how do you?
Yes. So far, 22 years.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's no
Thank you.
intent. The amount of data that these actually take is minuscule and not a big deal. So that we'll just leave these around. And what's cool is one of the new features that we have designed, we haven't started building it yet, is there's a new reporting tool that will be able to show you can actually look at net participation over time graphs, for example. And so it'll generate all kinds of graphs, just like you can in Excel with all kinds of different graphs. We'll provide that functionality in here. And so you can create that. You can look at participation by stake, participation by coordinating council if you're at the area level. And you'll be able to generate reports, and you can utilize some of the net participation in some of those charts and graphs and reports. And so that's why having these historical records are actually kind of interesting. And what's interesting, Steve, is we've never actually gone back and generated some of the reports. We've got over 20 years, 22 years of records on some of these nets. So it'd be kind of interesting for us to kind of show how things have grown over 20 years worth of ERC nets and where we see the spikes. But that's what that is. There is also a blank ICS 213. You can get those anywhere, but we thought we'll just have it generate one, and so it's generating one in the same format as the other ones that it generates here. So it just kind of generates that PDF on the fly. So that's what the exports are. And there could be other things in the future, but this isn't intended to be like a reporting tool, but we thought we'd put these in the past. We actually had these on the legacy, but you had to go hunt for them where they were on the website. And so now we just kind of pulled it all together. So they're right.
It's here. It's as long as you're not making noise, you can open the door.
Let's see here. I think that's what I wanted to show you on the ICS 213 messages. There's kind of counters up here. The number of checked in. So as I check in this operator, and see that 11 went to 12. If I check somebody else in, that's a real-time counter. If these guys are on, here's the emergency power. If they're on emergency power, I check them in, the emergency power counter starts checking in. So we'll probably see some changes up here as far as some of the stats on this particular role that you could kind of see real time. Right now, these are the only two that we're tracking, and there may be another way that we provide this information. But so if you have things that say, it'd be helpful for our nets if we could see this, or if we could count this, or whatever, let us know. But right now, as it stands, with the ability to create amateur nets, GMRS nets, Starlink nets, MeshCore nets, whatever net you want to record, it's basically a role that you can record. I guess in theory, you could record an in-person meetings, and you could just create if you have a monthly meeting, you could go in and create an in-person meeting and just record the people that show up to the meeting and simplify the rest of this. So you can use it however you want. And that is basically the net management tool. So I kind of showed you all the stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is Kurt. I currently log in. I'm currently the net control operator for the South region, and I've been logging into idahoerc.org. Will my login automatically be transferred over to the ERCconnect.org, or do I need to take action?
You should take action. So both domains are going to stay in existence for a long time to come. We're not going to get rid of Idaho ERC. But you should change, like, if you have saved favorites, for instance, here on your browser, I would change those to ERCconnect. And so the system will still work, and you'll see Idaho ERC instead of ERCconnect. If you go to Idaho ERC, that's what you see. If you go to, it's still the exact same website. It just functions, and it will accept either one.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Then second question is, in the past, at the end of the net, I have to do some special mechanism to report the number of check-ins and how many were on emergency power to some unbeknownst person that was doing net control for the repeater. Will they be able to have access to this in real time so that we don't need to do that anymore?
They actually always have.
Gotcha.
The answer is yes.
The truth comes out. Oh, I appreciate it.
But you could use that. The other side of it is it's part of the exercise for that particular net. So everybody else understands there's 4 kind of regional nets that are currently being called. They're going to transform into coordinating council nets soon, but there's another fourth, there's another net where we have all these numbers of how many checked in, how many on emergency power reported back. And we've been doing that through WinLink, kind of WinLink Telnet. And the purpose really is to exercise Telnet. I'm not Telnet. To exercise WinLink, we use Telnet just to make it quicker. But the idea is more not so much of collecting the info, but exercising the process of moving information around. So you can, and it's all up to how the operators do that.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I'm sort of against WinLink and Telnet. I'm a Luddite, but anyways, That's a different story. Thank you very much. Great training tonight.
You bet. Hopefully it's helpful. Just lost my train. There's another important thing I was going to mention. Just along your mention, you want to see so there's a dashboard that we're working on, because you might notice there is no save button on this page. Every time you click anything, every time I move this, that information is instantly recorded with the server. It's all done in real time. So as you see me clicking, their server's already got that. So if you happen to use the internet in this live, as opposed to like printing it out on paper and recording it and coming back and recording it, and your computer dies in the middle of it, your power goes out, you haven't lost anything. Everything is recorded in real time. And so because of that, we can now do something that we never had before, and that is we could create a dashboard that shows real-time check-ins. So on a certain night at a certain time, we can show all the nets that are currently running and exactly what their check-ins are and some basic stats. And you can watch them all click up literally in real time. And we'll probably do it for no real reason, but for the fun of it. Because that sounds like a cool thing to see.
Kevin, question?
Yes.
Okay, so I got on late, like the other person. I thought it was 8 o'clock, and then I read the mail. But this is a great system. But are you suggesting that we use it while the net is occurring, or should we still do it on paper and then record it later?
Some do it only on paper and record it later. Others have gotten used to using this online. So this tool can be used in fair weather and bad weather. In other words, when things are bad, if the internet's up, which in many cases they can be. For instance, I mentioned wildfires that we have here. This is a helpful tool, and it might be handy to have this even because the power is not always out. So it's up to every individual operator, and it's up to you how you want to do that. And we have a good mix of both. So again, you can do it on paper. And so we have one PDF version. The plan is to create another PDF version. We already have the other PDF version on the legacy system. If you look at it, I guess I can just show you real quick. Net reports, preambles. If I just look at the Idaho Falls North region, I'll click on this roster. And for this net, and it built this on the fly. So this is a legacy example, but it's designed to do 5 weeks on one printout, basically. And so now you can have, here's the net control operator information for week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and you can do check-ins. So this is kind of a simple net, but we're looking at doing kind of a something similar option. So you could print out one set on paper. So if you're an operator that wants to do it on paper, you could do it and you wouldn't have to print it out every week. But right now, what we have available is through the PDF generation.
I guess my question is, what do you recommend for us to be getting trained in? Because in my mind, should be training anyway for the disaster scenario, and internet will not be available. So if we have people that are used to using the internet while they record their nets, they're going to be SOL. But if we all train with the written document and then learn how to do it afterwards, that still gets you the information that you need, correct?
It does. And so here's the other thing. When you're in a real event, so let me back up just a little bit. People call these nets in different ways. Some people go through and they announce and they call people by name, each operator, each operator, each operator. If 40% or 50% or 60% of your net does not check in that's on the roster, you're wasting a lot of time. In a real emergency, you would never do that. In a real emergency, you get on frequency and you ask, what operators are on frequency, and you record those on frequency. So I encourage you to call your nets, going on what you just mentioned, in the same way that you would in an emergency. And call them by who's on frequency. So and some of these nets can be larger. So sometimes we should do things as close as we can, but calling each individual operator, I think, is kind of a bad way. But if you're still calling, if you say all operators in this state, please check in now, that may be a real way that you're going to check it even in an emergency if you're trying to see who's on frequency from what stakes, for example. With paper, yeah, you're going to be recording those. Maybe you're going to use one of these empty forms. Maybe you're going to use kind of a blank form that you're going to record things. So I think a combination. So this tool, yes, is kind of both. It's a fair weather tool. It can also be used when things are down, but your internet's still up. So it can still actually be very valuable. And I'll show you here in just a minute what I mean by that. And so you're 100% right. We should exercise on a weekly basis the way we normally do that. Can a tool like this make you lazy as a net control operator? Absolutely. It definitely can. It can also help you kind of organize and manage things. And so this tool is helpful for more than one reason, because you can call a net, record it on paper, and it never goes anywhere else. And everybody's still going to have the experience of checking into the net. But it doesn't help like the ERC leadership, for example, and even priesthood leadership that are now starting to log in and use the system to know what the net participation rates are and who's operating, who's checking into nets and who's not, what stakes are lacking, what stakes are doing well. So that's why we want to record it. But we're going to leave it up to every individual, but we're providing the tools through these printable forms to kind of help you so you can do things offline. So exactly that. And so even if you record this electronically, you could record it, at least periodically on paper. So you get that experience. So it's up to you as an individual operator and how you as a net control team are encouraging each other to function. But those are very good points.
A question,
Yeah.
you brought it up. We used to run our net where it was said, okay, everybody call in. And it was my experience, it was a nightmare. I had to try 4 or 5 times because walking over everybody's trying at once, walking over each other, that seemed like a nightmare. So we changed it to where, as you mentioned, we call by name. We have it on a spreadsheet where if you haven't checked in for several weeks, then we drop you from the roster. So we're not calling people that aren't there. But anyway, how do you run nets then where you say, okay, call in and have the pile up and the unorganized mess, I would call it?
Excellent question. And the answer is you got to train your operators for one. And two, you need to probably break up those operators, whether it's by coordinating council or by stake. And so that you're not listening to everybody, if you got 60 operators on that net, you don't have to listen in for all 60 to pile up, but you have a smaller pile up. And you can also teach people that you key down the mic and say, this is, and let go, see if anybody else is talking. If not, you key right back up and you give your call sign. And so there's different techniques and you may hear things out on the net, but some operators kind of get in the habit of when they might check in, or they give a little bit of a pause, or they use the this is technique where this is, let go of the mic. If nobody's transmitting, then you finish with the rest of your check-in. And I recommend that. Is it tougher on the net control operators? Absolutely. It also makes you a better net control operator to do that. And my wife was on Sunday, she was down in my radio room and she was listening to this net, and literally, I'm going to say 60% of those called were not checking in. And she says, man, this is a huge waste of time. And she was right. And in a real emergency, you're not going to do that. You're going to ask who's on frequency. So is it tougher? Yes. But I think if a net, I would recommend that you try it and you start off with maybe some training with the net control operators and say, slow it down just a little bit. We want to try and make sure that we're not, riding on top of everybody, and then maybe find a way to separate them, whether it's by a geographic area or by church organization area, or however you want to divide things up, or by call sign suffix from A to F. If your call sign suffix ends in A to F, then compound. And now you have fewer operators checking in. And then you can organize your net so it fits in with how you're going to call it. If you're going to call by, you can even put in the last check-in date. I've seen nets called by those that have checked in most recently, and most often they float at the top. Well, you could build some of that into this if you wanted to, but that's a little bit off topic, but that's my comment.
Thank you.
You
We'll
bet.
talk it over.
If you have any questions, again, reach out to the help desk at ERCconnect. And we also plan to build some written documentation on this. We're moving so fast trying to build this stuff out that we're trying to, that's why we are releasing this so on such a close after this was actually developed, that it's been kind of from a software development standpoint, this has moved very quickly, and our beta testers helped a lot. One of the things, let me just mention, that our beta testers helped with is making sure that this is keyboard friendly. So if I click here and if I hit tab, I'm going to move here. I can also move some other ways. So there's another feature that you may have seen. It's under this under the settings under data entry. It's called Auto Advance to Next Field. If I enable that and save, I'm just going to uncheck somebody here. Actually, let me go up here and uncheck one of these. If I check it, it's checked me in. And I don't know if you noticed this this blue indicator that shows me which field has the focus. It automatically moved me there. I didn't hit tab. If I hit the space bar, it checks me in and moves me to the next field. If I don't have anything there, I'm just going to hit enter. It's going to move me to the next field. If I want to put in time, I hit enter. It moves me to the next field. In other words, it's automatically moving me through. If I hit enter or space rather, it'll drop down and I can select it. As soon as I select it, it moves me to the next field. If you get used to using this and if you're doing it live, the auto advance to the next field is a nice tool to have. Some of the tools that we have, again, are really good for fair weather use, and we still need to do them, and other things we need to really make sure that we're practicing the way or exercising the way that we might enter interval emergencies. So we'll leave it up to you, but we've made it available so you can use it and manage it and run it however you want. Work with your net control operators or net managers. What we really need to do actually is we probably ought to have a way for you to be able to tell from this screen who the net managers are, in case you don't already know. Kind of assumes right now that you do, but again, if we start from the first click, if you're only on one net, you're not going to see this. You're just going to jump right through to this. So when I click net management, if I'm a net control operator on only one net, I jump right to here for me to go and add a new role or go back. Oh, here's an example of, pull the screen up a little bit. This is showing there's 2 roles on the 12th. If I click it here, they both were started at 8:30. So you pick one and there's the role. And basically you might end up finding that one of those is you don't want. And if you don't want one, you just click delete, say, yep, delete it, and it's gone. And now you only have a 1 indicator there. So net management, you either come to here and select your role, your net, or you come right into here. And if you want to create a new one, there we are. Back up a little bit. And then you just start filling it in. Once this is set up by the net managers and by you kind of tailoring it to your liking, once it's all set up, when you come in, all you're doing is you're just checking people in. And so it's really easy. So I know I showed you a whole bunch of really advanced features here for you to customize it. Once you've set it up, all you do is come in here and start checking people in. And it's off you go. And you've got search capabilities. Let me show what happens. If you happen to see, you don't see somebody on the roster, maybe because you've got them hidden from your filter up here. And so if you go down here and you type them in, it's going to say, oh, they're already checked in. And it's going to delete it for you. So it tries to help. It tries to be smart. It tries to keep you so you can't put somebody down here as a visitor that's already up here. And some things like that. If you find something that seems like it's not working right, or you get an error, please send an email to helpdesk@ercconnect.org. Let us know if you've got a feature request. Just send it to helpdesk@ercconnect.org, and we will respond and help you the best that we can. We went over, but I'm going to pause again for any last comments or questions.
Question.
Go ahead.
Looking at this particular page, you have traffic, and instead of a yes or no option, you have numbers.
Okay. That's a good question. So traffic is one of the standard fields that you can either type in a number. So if this person has 2 pieces of traffic, you could just type, click for 2, or I could just go in here and type 2, or if they just have 1, I can type 1, but it's just easy just to hit a 1, and it's just a counter. And so you can also make counters for other things as a custom field, but traffic happens to be one of those that's a standard field if you select it as a net manager, and so you've got a counter. So that's what traffic is if you want to record the traffic. And we don't have it tied into these messages. It's kind of, you can record whatever traffic here. If it's an IC at 213 or not, you can record it there if you want.
So it allows you to identify how much traffic they have rather than just yes or no.
Yeah, so now normally some matches, when you log in, please list how many pieces of traffic you might have, and they might come in and say, I have 2 pieces of traffic. You mark 2, and then you can say, okay, traffic number 1, who's the traffic for? Is it an ICS? And then you direct them as a net control operator. Go ahead and send your traffic, or move off to this frequency and send your traffic and come back, however you want to do it. But it's a way to record traffic. Some nets spend a lot of time on traffic trying to exercise, and so this allows you to record those traffic. And it's also an interesting metric if you want to look at doing that over time. And I've seen nets say, come in, and we encourage operators to send an ICS 213 message to somebody. We may not want to have 15 ICS 213 messages on the same net, but maybe we'll accept one. And if you want to send a message to somebody else on the net, come down with your call sign, and we'll allow you to send your traffic. And then, or you can still do something. And let me give you one more information that might be helpful. I'm going out on the limb a little bit. We have it designed. We have not added it yet. As soon as we finalize this, we might have some tweaks to do here and there to make sure that we have everything worked out like we want it. The plan is to make this a collaborative environment. What that means is we hope to make this so that if you have 3 net control operators all on the same role, they would show up here as just like you would see like in Google Docs or Google Sheets. And you could have multiple net control operators in here. And as you click things, everybody's going to see those clicks. There would also be a messaging tool where you can message back and forth with the other net control operators on this role. That's the plan. We're not quite sure how long it's going to take us, or if it's going to go as well as we hope. So I'm going out on a limb a little bit, but that's the plan. So if you've been using Google Sheets, for example, and it's been nice because you have the collaborative environment with Google Sheets, you hopefully will have the same thing with ERCconnect's Net Manager, to where, and there's no enabling it. All you have to do is have 2 operators on the same role at the same time, and they're going to start showing up, and then you're going to start seeing people be able to make changes at the same time.
Evan?
Go ahead.
Yep. Been doing this a while, and I want to let you know that what you have done, and your team right now especially, you have really excelled in helping ERC become what it is today. So I just want to tell you that very much appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And there's actually been a lot of people involved over the years kind of getting this. What you're seeing with this new system, it's very advanced over the old system, but we've been taking notes for a long time and putting together our wish list of here's what we need this to do. And then we've kind of put it all in there. And is there a lot here? There is. But as soon as you start talking to people, and you probably have your own ways of doing your nets. And I think we can make this pretty close into whatever net anybody wants. We're not aware of anything that's wildly off that anybody's told us about that we can't make with what's here. If you can't make what you want, reach out to the help desk, and we'll help you. And maybe that we need to add a new feature, or there's a new. For instance, one of the things that I thought of earlier today is um, uh, one. I noticed one net they're asking for city on a digital net to be sent. Well, we don't have a standard column for city, but we could add that for all the ERC net control operators. And if you wanted to have city as a standard column, we could add city or state. If there's something that you can't do, or that would make sense to do an automatic standard column, you can always do a custom column and put whatever you want in here. But if you want it automatically filled in so you don't have to type it in because it's data that's already in the system for an operator, for example, we already have lots of data that's already in here. Do that. Another thing, encourage your operators to go upload their photos, and then they'll show up here for you when you're calling the net. You can turn on the compass, and as you check people in, you'll see them show up, and you'll see the compass swing around to whoops, I got to check there. Oh, these guys are in the same direction, it looks like. Anyway, last call for any comments or questions.
You have a number of questions in the chat box. You want to run through those real quick?
Let me find that.
While you're looking, I do have one question not related to this part of the site, but I was wondering about the profiles section. It asks for membership number. What is the purpose for putting your membership number into the profile?
That's actually going away. That was requested by church headquarters a while back. They were actually going to put emergency communicators in tools. And the more they looked at it, the more they realized that it was going to be a lot more complex, and it got shot down. And so they were asking us to collect the membership IDs and record numbers for that. And so we're actually going to be pulling that down, but that's why it's there. It was part of a church headquarters request.
Okay, thank you.
Bet. Actually, could somebody, I got 47 windows and I can't find my Zoom stuff. Somebody read one of the first questions.
Do you want glitches and other kerfuffles reported to the help desk?
Say that one more time. Oh, here. Do you have glitches and other kerfuffles reported to the help desk? Yes, always. And we have a running list, and the help desk adds to that. So if there's any, so yes, we want any glitches, any problems, and if you spot things that just seem like it doesn't quite work right, or anything else, please let us know. This is, we only did the beta test, 2 weeks ago, basically. So, so this is brand new software, probably still technically in beta test, but we're releasing it because we have so many that need it and that are clamoring because they need it for GMRS nets. They need it to be able to do coordinating council nets that we couldn't do very well with the legacy system. Also, I didn't mention the legacy system works alongside this. So if you already have a legacy system, you can continue to use this until we turn it off. But there are features that are in the new system that are not going to show up on the legacy system, and so you can still check people in and do the basic fields, but all the fancy stuff in the new system isn't going to work in the legacy. But they do work alongside the legacy, and this new system all work. Let me just go up to the top. Just sent out an announcement of this. Okay, a MeshCore. Okay, that may be why we have some others. What's neat is MeshCore is exploding all over the place, and there's no reason why you can't now create a MeshCore net and create create it in a way that makes sense for MeshCore, whatever we want and have a MeshCore and ask everybody, go on MeshCore on a certain group and say, ask for people to check in. How do we enable someone to be a net manager for ERCconnect? Send a note to the help desk and say, make so-and-so a manager. And then once somebody is a manager, they can now control everything, add connect control operators, make other people managers. But we just need one manager in order to keep going. So Blaine, you actually will have the ability to do that because you are an area admin for the, I can't remember, are you Southeast or Southwest?
Southwest, yeah, thank you. That answered the question. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So area managers can do everything that a net control manager can do, but you can do it for all of the nets in your area. If that makes sense. What is the source of the operators in the nets? Okay. Oh, that's another good question. So right now, operate at the request of church headquarters, they wanted all the new operators to be vetted. And so they helped come up with the concept of an invitation system. The invitation system that we have works really well only if people look at their email and click on the link to go in and fill things out. We have a lot of people that have been sent invitations that isn't working. And it's because they're just not, people's inboxes are just full and they're not seeing things. So we're adding another option to the invitation system that can send a text message, an SMS text message, and hopefully that will get through a little bit better. So right now, the way that you become an operator is you need to be invited. That's kind of overseen at the area level. So the area managers and administrators can make anybody be an inviter. One of the things that we've talked about is, and we're gonna probably set this up on a per area basis, but if areas want to, I think it might not be a bad idea to allow net control operators to invite people. We just want to make sure that there are people that we want on the system, and we've got some kind of vetting. There's a vetting as far as the data before we actually put them on the system. If you get invited, you fill out a form, and then that is still reviewed for somebody before they're actually added. But we kind of want to know who these people are and that they should be on the net. But we're looking at possibly adding that ability to the net control operators so they can also invite. But right now, basically at the area level, the areas and whoever they designate can invite people. What's the source of the operators in the nets? The operators in the nets, again, there's two ways that the net managers, and we're going to talk about this on Thursday, they are automatically added, or they're automatically and manually added, or they're just completely manually added. So for instance, we have some HF nets, they're 100% manual added. And so that requires net managers to go in there and add people, take people out, and manage that. But what works really well and eases the burden on managing all these radio nets is to, if it's a stake net, set it up so they're automatically added from a stake perspective. If you want to create a ward net or GMRS net, you can have a ward GMRS net. You can have a ward MeshCore net. You can have two nets for a ward, for example, and set things up with whoever you want to. So if they're added automatically, you don't have to worry about manually adding people when somebody moves into your stake or ward. We're actually moving people all over the place. So when somebody moves out of a stake or ward, we just update their records. That we tell them we're transferring their records like the church says, but all we're doing is we're putting them into another stake and ward, and they automatically will show up on all the nets that are automatically importing for stake and ward. So that allows people to show up automatically. So the answer is either manually or automatically, depending how the net's been set up. Is it developed from those who are enrolled in ERCconnect? Yes. Trying to think. We do have some people involved that are not operators, but we got developers that are involved with the ERC that are helping to develop. Will there be an instructions document? Yes, we do plan on a document that kind of lays all this out. We also will be planning tool tips. For instance, if you hold your mouse over one of these columns, the tool tip is click to sort shift and let's see, click to sort, shift click to basically add another column. And so we're going to be adding additional tool tips to various things in here to help out with those, but there will also be the written documentation that will help. What is the amateur suffix? That's everything after the number. On a GMRS, it's the numeric piece. So you have 4 letters, such as WRXF, and then 603 is the suffix. On a shares call sign, I forget what it is, but there's not a published suffix, but there actually is. It turns out that if you know anything about shares, a member of the church is involved at the shares program office. And so, so we've got good connections in there. And so I worked out with him the rules that they actually use from the shares program office. And we actually have that built into this ERCconnect, even though most people don't even know those things exist. Oh, somebody's got the call sign figured out. All right, I think that's everything in. One more call. I want to try and answer everything we can. Any last questions?
Hey, Kevin, you talked about the vetting of when someone is invited and they fill out the form. What does that entail? I'm just curious as to what you're even looking for.
It's funny you should ask because we actually talked about this like yesterday, I think. Steve Taylor and I were chatting. One is if it's somebody we don't know at all, we want to be careful with adding them. If they're not actively participating in ERC nets, not sure we want to add them just because they show up to one net. We kind of want to know, is this somebody? Do they have to be a member of the church? No, they do not. In fact, some of our best net control operators that have had access to the system have been non-members of the church. Well, actually, one of them started off as a non-member, and he's now a member of the church today. So the ERC has actually been a missionary program. It didn't mean start out that way, and we don't proselytize, but we have had at least one that has joined the church. But church membership is not required. Do we allow people outside the church to use this for other nets? No, we have not. This has been the entire website has been dedicated to the church. We have like Aries and Races nets. Like, man, this would be great for our nets. I think it probably would be, but we have kept this solely dedicated to support of the church. So we've been very careful with how we've done that. We have ERC operators that kind of have other little specialized nets. We still haven't let them use that unless it's a church affiliated net. We've kept it to that. So that's where that's at. I'm sure questions will come up as you start using it. So feel free to come back and review this. We'll also make the summary, and we also have AI that's then transcribing this. So we'll see what we can use that to turn into some of the documentation as well. And who knows, maybe I told you guys wrong a bunch of stuff. We'll correct any corrections. And there will likely be another video recorded in the future as we kind of work things out and get some of the polish on this. Last comment, please don't hesitate to report anything that doesn't seem like it. Even if you're not sure if it's a bug or an operator error, let us know. And it could be a bug or it could be an operator error. One of the biggest things, I should have mentioned this before, if your role is like not displaying people that you think it should be or like it should be, there's a button that says reset filters. You can also filter. I didn't show you can filter on any of these columns, and you can filter on just show me this stake. Even if there's 30 stakes on that roster, you can filter on one stake, one from the search, but you can also set a filter on a per column basis. So you can make a mess of things, so to speak, and just click on reset filters. And if it's still looking weird, set it back to the default for the role. And hopefully the role's got a good default set up and you can start again from there. So if all else fails, reset the filters and revert to the default. All right, I probably talked way longer than I should have. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate the turnout, and we wish you luck, and we hope this works out to be a good tool for you. The next big training like this, besides the Net Manager training, is we have a new email tool that partially ties in to this. And so the new email tool is from an area perspective, it will allow you to target all the way down to the ward level. You can target net control operators in a coordinating council, all kinds of things. But the key is we have to have lots of operators in there. So those areas that are building out operators, get the operators on, and then these tools will be more helpful. The other piece is besides, it's more messaging than just email, because the new system is SMS text messaging, as well as we have tie-ins to social media systems such as GroupMe. So you'll be able to tie a GroupMe group to a net and have GroupMe send an automatic reminder 15 minutes before a net starts if you wanted. Stuff like that's planned and in the works, but just watch the website, and we will send out periodic updates to all the net control operators that are in the system and others, so that those things that apply to you, you can kind of see whatever new features that we add. All right, we better close things. I'm just gonna add, because you're at the top of the screen, Russ in Las Vegas, would you mind offering a closing prayer for us?